Hi everyone, Amy here with Amy's Wares, and today I'm going to do some simple die cutting and embossing and ink blending. I have this new to me die. If it's still available, I'll link it below. I have this embossing folder from Altenew, and here is a photo of the finished card. As you can see, I ended up using a different embossing folder than the one I showed you, and I'll explain to you why here momentarily. But to start, I'm just taking a half sheet of cardstock. This is 120 pound accent opaque, and I'm taking both the shadow layer and the word layer of this awesome new to me die, and I'm using some mint tape from scrapbook.com. I'm going to run this through off screen through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 and die cut them both out. So what I'm going to do here, just because it'll be easier to ink blend that shadow layer than the kind of fiddly little die, is I'm going to leave the die words white, and then I'm going to ink blend the shadow layer. Now, initially I was thinking I was going to use this really pretty embossing folder, but I soon realized that this sentiment is so big that it covered up most of the design. So I did end up changing my mind and grabbing a different embossing folder. You guys know I have loads of them, but I ended up going with Natural Wicker Basket, I think is what it's called, 3D. Again, I'll link everything that is available in the video description box below. If you expand and scroll down, if you follow my links, it's no additional cost to you, but it really does help me out. So I felt like this gave a better background because it was coverage all across it, and it wasn't going to be covered by the sentiment and kind of take away from that design feature. So I'm knowing that I want to really have a bright punch of rainbow colors. So I have Flame, Glitz, Uptown, Dress Blues, and Glam. These are all Catherine Pooler inks. They are part of the party collection. And I'm just going to do some very simple saturated ink blending on this shadow layer. I have a 25-plus-year-old cake decorating turntable, so I apologize in advance. I don't have a link for that, but I'm sure you could find something similar. And then holding it down is a low-tack stick mat from Altenew. It's one of their stick mats that goes in their kind of newish stamp positioner tool. But I'm going really heavy-handed, really saturated in color because I want this to be really deep and rich in pigment, and I want it to really contrast with the white letters of the die cut. So I made the yellow extra big, knowing that I was going to overlap it and get the green. I went a little bit farther than I intended, so I'm going to come back and try and bring in a little bit more yellow, but that's why you always want to go big with the yellow to start, because it's so easy to overtake it with the colors beside it. Now I'm coming in with some blue, and I can't forget the purple, so I will come back and get the very tip of it with that. But these colors do kind of soak into the paper and flatten out a little bit. So even though it looks a bit of a hot mess, I know that it's going to kind of soak in and dry back a little bit more even. Plus, once I put the letters down on there, you're really not going to see any mistakes. Now you can see that that red really did stain the photopolymer of that sticky mat, which is no big deal. It doesn't affect anything. But if that bothers you, just bear in mind that those sticky mats do function a lot like photopolymer stamps, and that they do kind of take on the ink and stain over time. So I'm using my new pokey tool. My friend Judy sent me one with a mushroom on it, and I absolutely love it. So I'm poking out all the little fiddly bits of this big old die, but it did actually cut through evenly. I didn't have to use a metal shim, so that was good. You never know when you have such detailed word dies like this how difficult it's going to be to get it out. But I don't want to mess with liquid glue in this case, so I did pull out my micro dots. These are Artist Tack micro dots, and I have kind of decided to go this route lately. So I'll kind of fold back the carrier sheet and wipe my hand over it to try and get any of those little glue dots that would end up on the front of my die cut. And I do find that this really does help kind of offset that from happening. So that's a little bit of a tip if you struggle with getting glue dots on the front of your die versus on the back where they're supposed to go. So I'm just going to line this up with the really colorful rainbow shadow layer and then put my block on it just to let it sit. I have some tape runner here. I'm going to run that along the back of this emboss panel. I do have it cut down ever so slightly. I took a 1/4 inch off each side, so it's got an 1/8 inch border. This is an A2 size card base, again, of 120 pound accent opaque. And I'm just going to use the last bit of this foam roll. I realized that last roundabout is wasted, which is kind of unfortunate. So I'm just going to make this one little strip work, but I was able to finish up that roll. That's 1 inch foam tape from scrapbook.com as well. It's 2mm thickness. So it is going to give it some dimension off the front of the card, but the rest of it is pretty flat, so it's not going to be too bulky. It'll be easy to ship. Just going to place this in the top center of the card panel here, and then I just need to pick out some blingage. So this is my card bling from a Colorful Life Designs. I do have a coupon, AmyFan10. If you shop for anything at a Colorful Life Designs, be sure to use my coupon at checkout and save cash. But as you can see, I have over 100 colors here. It's kind of crazy. So I was thinking Crystal, Iris, Aurora Borealis, but then I remembered there's a really pretty white one that I wanted to use that's really reflective. And that's Luminous White. That's the one I ended up going with. It came out in July, so that's a really fun one as well for kind of a neutral, and I felt like it worked really well with all the white space. So it's going to give it a little bit of shimmer, but not take away from anything, and it's otherwise clean and simple, lots of white space. And I'll put this down in odd numbers and a smattering across the card, and that's going to finish the design. So thank you so much for spending time with me. If you found this helpful, please hit the thumbs up and consider subscribing. I will link everything below, and I will catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.